I mean, my life was pretty stable. I was attending the local masjid and doing courses in fiqh, hadith, and usul and tariq and quite a few things. On top of that, I was studying and working in a local Islamic bookshop as well. I was 18, so I was still doing my A-levels, chemistry, biology, physics, amongst other subjects and things. And I had an aim to become a teacher. So I really wanted to become a teacher and take that field forward. Unfortunately, things took a bad turn and wasn't able to, and I was put in prison then in 2014. In prison as well, stayed there on remand for a good couple of months, and then they bailed me, put me back inside, then officially then sentenced in 2016. I would say so, yeah. I think being in prison, I've never seen a police officer in my life, and going literally from no interaction with the government, the system, or anything at all, to prison 3 days before I'm 19. I would say I've become a lot more defensive. You've got to become a slightly aggressive, I suppose. The prison environment is not, one of peace and love. So you have to just adapt to the prison environment, and unfortunately, those traits follow you outside of custody. So when I came out, I was really on edge, and I even went to the doctor. Alhamdulillah, my doctor knows me since I was a baby. So, I said, like, I'm walking outside and people holding doors for you. Like, you go to the city centre, you don't do that sort of thing in custody. So I just find myself, fist clenched, and I'm a bit anxious, and what's going on here, back to the wall. And those things follow you out, and you've got to sort of relearn to come back out. It's just dark, it's cold, you're hungry. I mean, it's just awful in every way imaginable. The first time I went to prison in 2014, I was a teenager, and I was living at home with my mum. So my immediate concern was my mum and my siblings. Unfortunately, my mum, she was out of work as well. She was working in a local school, and when the case kicked off, they terminated her employment. So everything, it didn't just affect me, but it affected my family as well. Yeah, so I mean, the backlash, obviously, my immediate thing was I was in prison, so I didn't see or hear for a lot of things that happened to my family, because they wanted to shelter me from that thing, from everything that happened as well. But it's only after I was released from custody, I found out that so during the time I was in custody, my family moved from one area to another. She was renting a house from the local church, and they kicked her out as well. They just said, we don't want you living in this house. I mean, it's that really. I mean, someone literally knocking the door and saying to my mum that we're going to firebomb your house and quote unquote see how you feel. I went into custody, being a convert as well. Everybody knows you. Any masjid you go to, you're instantly recognizable. And going from a friends list of 3,000 to 5, literally that. I had, the first time I was in custody, one person wrote me a letter. One brother who wrote me, that was it. Going from calling people every day, going out for food every day as a teenager, going from all of that, literally hundreds of people I would see in a week, to one person writing you a letter. And then when you come out of custody, it's the same thing. You go to the masjid, if they give you salam, it's a bit, people make jokes and they pat you down on your chest, and they say, oh, as he turns, did they get to him? And they do, they just judge you immediately. Sometimes in the form of humor and sometimes not. I have had somebody turn around and say to me, stay away from my son. This is a kid that we grew up with, and he was like, that's it, don't go anywhere near him, and you just keep yourself to yourself. Not that there's anything inherently bad with me, but they just don't want suspicion falling onto the, which I get, I do empathize with that, I understand that. But that is one of the issues you face as well. So again, my family, my siblings were in high school when the case kicked off. And of course, my name was publicized and things. They were bullied and ridiculed. Teachers made comments even to my siblings. Well, my mum actually had alopecia. She developed alopecia from it, and all her hair fell out. That was one of the main, that was a very big physiological effect on my mum. Aside from the depression and the anxiety and everything else, but that's what happened to my mum. We used to rent a house from a local church, who immediately proceeded to kick my mum out when I was in custody. And my mum, being a white woman, not having a church to go to, It had a dramatic and really profound effect on my mum. And even my father is a typical white skinhead, I suppose, not that I'm one to talk. And he's come to the masjid 3 times. He's actually prayed salah. He's still not Muslim, but he's read or accepted an English copy of the Quran. He's come to the masjid, he's prayed behind local imams, and he's come for Jummah. He sat right in front of the imam on a chair as well. So the imam's on the minbar, and my dad is on the chair because he has mobility problems. So imagine how humorous, funny that must look. But all of that was because of the da'wah that HHUGS gave. As a son, sometimes you're unable to give da'wah to your parents because you're part of the family. You're not that they don't respect your opinion, but everybody has it. If they're close to you, you just sort of push it aside. But HHUGS, being there, they've literally given that inspiration to my parents to question, and ask a question about Islam, which is, that is the spirit of Islam. You got to learn life lessons really quickly. I mean, I went into custody as 18, came out at sort of 22, 23. So during that time, people go to uni, develop friendships, learn social skills. I didn't have any of that. My only social skill was, dealing with people on the canteen, and, everything was always around prison. So I had to sort of relearn to, I suppose, come back outside. And the only support I had was from HHUGS. Anything, police and probation is absolutely nothing at all. And just having a normal conversation, I spoke with plenty of times. I'm sure I racked your head about car insurance and things, council tax as well, and all these sort of things that I didn't learn. I didn't have the opportunity to learn because I went from custody, living in my mother's house, and then suddenly being too dangerous to go home because they couldn't monitor my family. Essentially, they couldn't justify putting conditions on them. So they threw me from living with my mum just to total independence and with no education in between, really. I would say literally every way imaginable. Imagine you've got no experience, no qualifications that you can use. You've been thrown into a council flat. You've got to pay all these bills. On top of that, you can't get a job. And probation want you to pay for the hostel as well. So I was getting job seekers at the time, which I think was £250 a month. And they want £50 a month rent or £58 a month for the hostel. So you literally nothing left at all. I mean, you're stressing every day of, can I eat today? What shall I eat today? And even at the time I was single, so it was only myself really. I slept on a mattress for 6 months on the floor. Alhamdulillah is small things, and you just build up from that and learn, and yeah. I suppose the hardest thing I would say is mental health, because you just get angry and agitated. Dealing with the police, they don't deal with you very particularly nicely, not like they do on ITV and BBC. All these programs they put on, literally how they sit you down is they say your name and the next word is terrorist. That's all they say, extremist and ex-offender. That's your identity until you're off license. So it's dealing with that, trying to combat their understanding of you or their perception of you. That's obviously not the way you want to be. That's not your perception of yourself. Alhamdulillah, Islam it teaches us everything. So, you become angry, you make wudu, you go to the masjid, you do salah. So, alhamdulillah, Islam and Iman is a big ni'mah. And I was always interested in religion and philosophy and all these sort of things. My father's Norwegian. So, the Norwegian side, the different gods and Thor and all these sort of things, I say they were quite appealing because I was a teenager. But then thinking about it and delving more into religion, I thought this, it can't be that you have multiple gods and multiple things and all these sort of stuff. And I grew up in a multicultural area, from local. So alhamdulillah, a lot of my friends were Muslim. I was in high school at the time, so we used to talk about religion, and I just used to overhear the conversation. They used to pray during their lunch hour. So we're playing football 1 second and then they're praying the next. Obviously, I would ask a question and what's going on. And mashallah, the questions, the answers they used to give was not to convert me, but they just gave me the answer and sort of, let me ask my next question. And I researched quite a lot of religions, and I thought, start with like Judaism, and go down to the roots. Start in Judaism, and then you realise the history, how they've changed it, how they've altered things to suit they've changed all sorts of stuff. But the message is still there, that there is only one God, and there are prophets, and there is a successor, and there's a line and a chain. So you go to the next one, go to the Bible, you see the stories there, and even in some of the original scriptures that they found, it says that there will be a next prophet. I've got it upstairs. My mother, she gave me a Bible from her grandmother, which is the original consensus version. So all the Christian ulama have done ijma, and consensus on it. And in that, Jesus says, I can't tell you everything now. Someone will come after me. He will be the spirit of truth. He will be a sadiq al-amin. This is in a Bible. But I always thought to myself, I can't be a Muslim because I'm a white boy. This is how I grew up. I don't know any converts or any reverts or anything at all. All my Muslim friends are all Asian and, Arab. And I just thought to myself, I can't. And I was not battling with myself, but slowly convincing myself that, the truth is there, the truth is in front of you. You conform to the truth doesn't conform to you. And I was in school one day and I just said to my friends, how do you become Muslim? And they just, sorry. They just explained it to me and said, you just say Shahada. Sorry, man. Yeah, no worries. You take Shahada and that's it. I was bewildered. So when I was released in 2017, tried to find employment and had temporary employment and things, tried to rebuild my life from ground up. Alhamdulillah, I met my wife. We decided, we got married. We had some issues like with immigration because she's not from the UK. But alhamdulillah, everything was made very easy. And HHUGS, again, they helped immensely. They in every way, shape or form, literally everything. So then we decided, to build a family. Alhamdulillah, we had kids. And this was my point up until 2022 as well. So just trying to build a family and trying to provide for my family. That was my main focus. My eldest was born in 2020, okay. And my second eldest was 2022. So she was, I believe, she was 7 months pregnant when they decided to arrest me and put me back into custody. Yeah. Anyone who's got kids who knows it just changes your life overnight. So whatever things you aspired for yourself personally, they sort of take a back seat, and the main goal is your child. Obviously you've got the added financial cost of milk and nappies, and that's just added stress and all sorts of things. I was released in 2017, and they release you with what they call Part 4 conditions. So at the time, you're just obliged to give your identity documents, I think. In 2019, they then changed the law to say identity documents, financial accounts, anything financial related, anything related to addresses and vehicles that you drive as well. So because of that, in 2022, bearing in mind I'd been out for so long, there was a bit of a slip-up admin side from the police. I would say it was their fault as much as mine, or more so. And they put me back into custody for breaching, basically, essentially an admin error. They gave me 9 months in custody in 2022. During the time, my wife was heavily pregnant. I think she was 7 months pregnant when they put me into custody. So this was 10 times more than anything I'd ever had. In 2014, my only worry was my mum. But, alhamdulillah, HHUGS looked after my mum as well. My mother's non-Muslim. Sorry, mum. And mashallah, brother, he looked after my mum and helped quite a lot. In 2017, my only concern was myself and, feeding myself, essentially. But in 2022, between this period of time, I built myself up and established a family life. Alhamdulillah, got married and we had children. So going back into custody in 2022 for something I would say was entirely unnecessary. Having 5 years, good rapport with the police and, services, for them just to do that to me was incredibly difficult. So when I was put into custody then, they literally just said, you're going to be homeless. Your wife's not from the UK, so she's not entitled to any housing. At the time, she wasn't entitled to public funds. So I was solely in receipt of all benefits, and being in custody, all of that stopped. So my wife literally had no penny, and she wasn't even allowed to work because on the visa it says no recourse to public funds and no access, no right to work. So they left her pregnant, 7 months pregnant, in a house that she has no right to. And I didn't even have proper contact with her because they wouldn't let me out of my cell in the prison. So my biggest fear was my family, losing my family. The social services said that they wanted to get involved, and people have lost their kids for much less, really. So that was my biggest fear. It literally, I had a knock on the cell door and said, you're going to be homeless, social services are involved, and that was that. She just walked off. I banged the door, come back, explain yourself. No explanation from the police. They said they didn't have a clue. No explanation from probation. And that's you're just left in total darkness. And shaitan then just takes over the idle mind. You've got nothing else to do in prison other than ruminate. And you don't know, you just create all these scenarios in your head of what may or may not happen. My wife, not being from the UK, she has no family in the UK at all. And very limited friends as well, I suppose. So her, being 7 months pregnant and having no paperwork with her name on, or no right, not even having no paperwork, she doesn't have the right to have her name on the house. She was incredibly stressed and depressed, and she has nowhere to turn to. She's got no physical company other than my family, who live, separately as well. So at HHUGS, I helped, extended both hands and helped, immensely. They paid for the housing during the time I was in custody. I think they gave my wife a monthly allowance as well for food and nappies and toiletries and all these sort of basic things. My family were not a wealthy family, we don't have any businesses. My mum was caring for my grandmother at the time, so wages and things, they go very, they don't go very far. So alhamdulillah, HHUGS, they helped. I can't even begin to imagine, beyond comprehension. I say your HHUGS are there, really. You feel as though you've got nobody to talk to. And another problem is people don't understand. Sometimes you try to explain to somebody, maybe how the police talk to you or how they treat you, and they've only ever had a good dealing with a police officer because, the guy who's pulled them over, he's quite a nice chap and he's let them off. So they don't understand your situation. They just think maybe you're a bit angry or anxious, or you've done something to, maybe deserve this level of monitoring and attention and this sort of stuff. But HHUGS, they understand. They understand that, I know the police, they do have a job to do, but the way they do it, they go above and beyond to make your life difficult, and for no reason at all. Judges have passed rulings saying that what the police have done in certain cases have been unlawful and unacceptable, and they've overstepped their bounds. And it's just having that person to talk to. I mean, it's light at the end of the tunnel, is what it is. I had really massive problems trying to secure long-term employment or any form of employment. And obviously being in custody at 18, I didn't have the time, or I didn't have the opportunity to learn to drive. So one of the biggest obstacles for me was trying to save up enough money to learn to drive so that I could get a job further afield. And alhamdulillah, HHUGS were the ones who helped with that. They provided money for driving lessons, which in turn then I managed to buy a car, and I did manage to get a delivery driving job and things. So went from 0 to 100 really quickly. And had it not been for HHUGS, I wouldn't have had the opportunity. Trying to save up, £600-700 on universal credit, for one person as well, because my wife wasn't eligible. It's £300 a month, I think is all you get for UC. It was even less than that because I was less than 25. So when my daughter went into primary school, obviously we anticipated quite a hefty school bill, but didn't realise the full uniform cost is £190. And that's without, all the trimmings and the bags and all sorts of things that they have. So again, just trying to scrape together that you need to find that money, otherwise she can't go to school, or she'll get penalised for, attending in the wrong uniform and that sort of thing. And HHUGS were there to help and offer assistance for that as well. So HHUGS gave us vouchers, which enabled us then to buy the school uniform, the full set then for my daughter. It's just trying to, find the budget when you get these hidden bills. And sometimes the uniform costs, you might have a one-off cost at the start of the term, and then they rip their jumper or their cardigan, and you need new trainers and new shoes. And certain schools, they have certain rules where you have to buy a certain brand of shoes as well. You can't just go buy the ones that the cheapest one that you find. They have to be a certain sole and all these sort of things. And they just put you in an unnecessary stress, which I suppose for, a married couple who are both working, they can afford these, unanticipated bills. But for someone who's struggling to find employment, the UK is freezing, and I've got 3 girls in the house, and we're always constantly cold. So having the heating on, sometimes is a conscious decision, I suppose. Especially my first flat was really poorly insulated, so radiators on, and it's freezing 10 minutes later. So sometimes you do have to say, £10 a day for heating or something. It's quite poorly efficient, the flat was, and it is that choice then of wearing warm clothes and turning the heating off and trying to make a bit of song and dance or some fun and games or some, you try to hide the fact that basically you just can't have the heating on. It's like black and white, going from having the heating on for just in the morning and just in the evening, and wearing warm clothes, in between and trying to stay hot. You can leave the heating on a little bit longer. You've got a warmer duvet, you've got draft excluders. It's totally different. Is the difference between night and day. You see the difference on your children. You know, the house is warmer, they have warmer clothes. I mean, HHUGS again, they sent us vouchers for warm clothes. You know, having 4 people in the house, just buying 4 warm jackets will set you back £200, even if you go to a cheap shop, a winter jacket. And you know, again, that's just an unexpected expense, and one that occurs quite regularly with kids as well. So, alhamdulillah, HHUGS, they help with everything like that. And again, it's the difference between night and day. Not to dramatize it, but you know, being dark and cold and shivering. And alhamdulillah, you know, my kids are playing happy, they've got warm clothes, they go to school in the uniform. It's a big ni'mah, very big difference. Awful. Absolutely awful. They send you what they call hot pots, which are literally stone cold prison rice that you could build houses out of. And that is what you're given for iftar. And of course, you know, all the non-Muslims are allowed to change their religion for the month. So they smash the pots intentionally, and the prison don't replace them. So you get hot pots with a big hole in the side. So you're given it at 5 o'clock in the evening, which is food time. And of course, iftar is like 9:30. You know, this year, 9:45 was, you know, late iftars. So your food is absolutely stone cold, and that's what you're given for 30 days. You're not allowed to cook your own food. In private jails, it's a bit different, but in prison where I was, you weren't allowed to cook your own food at all. So you were just given stone cold leftovers, essentially. It's quite difficult. Ramadan is a community ibadah. You know, you spend time with your family, you do iftar, you do suhoor, and then of course you go to tarawih and you do that in the night. But being incarcerated, you don't have any opportunity at all. So it's quite lonely, I suppose. But everything is just a constant stress. You know, you're doing your suhoor and your iftar, and you're thinking then, what can we eat tomorrow? Or what do I have to buy? Or do I have the money to go shopping? You're in tarawih, doing your salah, and you know, sometimes you're ruminating on things. You should be concentrating on salah and your ibadat, but you're thinking of other things, and oh my God, did I pay this bill, or do I have enough? And this is the stress. It's just constant stress and anxiety. You imagine like a heart machine flatlining. That's what it is. It's just constant stress. Again, you can just allow yourself to switch off, instead of, you know, going into this deep dark hole of can I do this, or can we do this, or what do I have to. It just eats away at you, and then having that support network there, just having a brother to call and to talk to, or having advice, HHUGS, they send you the support. It just changes the sun comes up, is how I would describe it. The Ramadan package, the HHUGS send us, you know, for my family is wonderful. You know, we have games and things for the kids, just balloons and Ramadan Mubarak, and it's just something nice it's that interaction that you can spend and do that opportunity. You have the opportunity to do those things with your kids. But they also sent a hamper to my mum, an Eid Mubarak hamper. My mum had a cake, you know, Eid Mubarak, a little perfume, miswak, and dates as well. And my mum, she loves dates, you know. So for her, she didn't expect it, because I was out of custody as well. So it's been a couple of years. So HHUGS, they stopped supporting my mum because she started working, and she didn't expect to have a Eid hamper, and she was given it, and she actually thought they were sent by mistake, and they said, no, you're just still on the list, so you got one. And she cried. She had tears in her eyes. It was quite dark and lonely. You know, I suppose the main family, you know, the centerpiece is missing, isn't it? So everything feels superficial. It affects your self-esteem. You constantly question your worth. You know, am I doing, you know, as much as I can, as much as I should? You know, you do, obviously, you compare yourself to others and say, you know, they're doing this and they're doing that, and you're not able to do so. So it does affect you. Again, it's black and white, you know, it's day and night. And, you know, alhamdulillah, my children are a lot more happier. They go to school happy, they come home, they eat their food, and they're a lot more, I suppose, receptive. We have a good relationship, it's a lot more playful. It's a family environment, as opposed to a dark prison cell in which you've got, you know, no one to rely on, I suppose. I wouldn't say anyone deserves anything, in terms of like how the police treats us in this situation, even if it's like a schedule 4 or schedule 7 in the airport, whatever these sort of things are. Everybody has rights and things. So never convince yourself that you're deserved of that behavior. And if you need help or advice, you know, HHUGS are there to call. I think I've called late at night, early mornings. No one's ever said don't call me. You know, and anything, literally about mundane things such as council tax, you know, car insurance. I've ragged brother brain so much because I didn't understand it. No one's ever explained it to me. No one in my family drives. No one. So my dad couldn't teach me about insurance or anything like that. My friends, I mean, their initial things go on a comparison site. They get a quote. I don't get a quote. Everything has to be done 10 times, more difficult than what it is for a normal person. And they don't understand that then. So you just, things get frustrated really quickly. Whereas HHUGS, they understand that. So always, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to ask and call, and just, they're always there. I mean, if you think, even £5, £10, and sometimes we think, it doesn't make a difference, or you need to give a massive lump sum to make it a difference in somebody's life. You don't. I mean, really, everything helps in every way. I mean, seeing the smile on your children's face in the morning because you're able to do something,